welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be taking a look at the temperature screen solutions available from 𝐂𝐂𝐕 that you can purchase through ourselves here at Dynamic CCTV. My name's Nathan Garner. I'm the project manager and technical support team leader for Dynamic CCTV. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cover a few slides. Didn't want to go and have too many slides on it, rather show more of a real world setup on the actual cameras themselves, and we're going to take a look at the I-Series recorder using the 𝐂𝐕s 4200 free software with the AI dashboard as well. So the principles with the thermal cameras to detect temperature or abnormal temperatures, the case that we're looking at today. So it allows a site to detect if the person has an elevated skin temperature above normal, which you configure your own temperatures with. A faster screening method for temperature alerts or anything like that. And it's pretty useful for trying to get back to a new kind of new normal way of working on different sites. So the advantages for the temperature screening solutions, a couple of different ones that we've got. So it's faster screening for multiple people. As they're walking through, you can have for example, a screening channel in a building, so they have to walk in front of the camera, and as they're walking past, each person's screened, and if an abnormal temperature is detected, it can trigger back through to a back-end VMS, or it can trigger on the camera itself using the flashing light or the built-in speaker on the 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕 range. It's fast notification of an abnormal temperature detected. So on the cameras, they have an audible alarm on the 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕 range of turrets that will play a message if an abnormal temperature has been detected by the camera. And that can also link through as a linkage action through to a back-end VMS, such as the free 𝐂𝐕s 4200 software, or for larger systems where they need more flexibility or more functionality, you can look at the 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕 license VMS, which I've done a separate webinar on that's available on our YouTube channel as well. There's fast deployment options with the temperature screen solutions. So you've got the tripod mountable using an adapter for cameras to fit on top of a tripod. With the handheld cameras, they can attach directly onto the top of a tripod. So for fast deployment scenarios or temporary installations, it's kind of a really good use for them. On the actual cameras themselves, they have AI detection to help reduce false alarms. So if someone's holding a cup of tea as they're walking past the camera, it's only trying to read the temperature of the person's face itself. So the cup of tea wouldn't actually trigger the abnormal temperature alert. But you'll see when I do my live demo, I'm going to hold a warm cup of water towards my forehead, which will trigger because it's on the person's face. It's also great at detection distances with the temperature screening cameras. So on some of the larger bullet temperature screening cameras that we sell, you can get up to 9-meter detection distances, which is useful for larger open areas such as a foyer within a building that needs the camera mounted further away. And that can be done using the larger bullet cameras that we sell. And they are a cost-effective solution, so there are the 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕 range of temperature screening cameras, and then there's also the high-end range of solutions as well. So we've put a few different temperature screen solutions together. Today we're going to be looking at the first two, so a thermographic camera standalone, linking through to 𝐂𝐕s 4200, as well as the I-Series MVR solution as well, which we're going to be looking at through there. The high-end ones, so you've got your Deep in Mind exit model MVRs, which we also have video on our YouTube channel showing that. Also, I've done a webinar on the fourth option, which is for large deployment type scenarios using the XMod Deep in Mind unit with the licensed 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕 software as well. So these are a couple of the different cameras that we've got in the temperature screening range. So there's different cameras depending on the scenario that you have on site, what you need the camera to be able to do, and as well as different detection distances. The black body calibrator, and this is used if you need higher accuracy on the actual temperature screening. So this can increase the accuracy to plus or minus 0.3 degrees. Without the black body calibrator, the camera accuracy is plus or minus 0.5 degrees for the temperature screening range. So these are just a few recommendations for the installation environments. So you can only install the temperature screening cameras inside with an ambient temperature of plus 10 degrees up to plus 35 degrees. They're not designed for outdoor scenarios due to external factors such as wind or anything like that, as well as getting external temperatures affecting the camera. External temperatures aren't usually stable. It's also recommended for the cameras to be fitted within the actual parameters of that specific camera. So there are different configuration guides that need to be followed in regards to angles, mounting heights and detection distances, depending on the camera that you're actually using. We have available to us, which we can send over to you when you're looking at these different types of cameras. It's also important to ensure that the preheat time of the device is being observed, and this can be different depending on the cameras that you're using. Handheld cameras have a faster preheat time, whereas the installation of the turrets and such, they're approximately 90 minutes of preheat time before you can get accurate results from the camera itself. And this would be when they're either first powered on or if they've been turned off for a prolonged period of time. You just got to wait 90 minutes after the first powered on. It's also best to set up a one-way kind of screening channel, so the person is walking towards the camera, and the camera also needs to clearly see the person's face. So if they're looking down or anything like that, that can affect it, or if they're faces themselves. Masks are fine because it can then read on the eyes and everything as well. It's just if the forehead is covered by the person. They also need to be installed in a stable lighting environment, so if there's any interference from the lights. It also needs to be a well-lit area that the camera's installed in. It makes it a lot easier with the optical image. If it's fitted in, for example, a foyer kind of situation, if there's a lot of movement in the background or other high temperature sources, these can affect the accuracy of the temperature screening cameras. We've seen a couple of times when customers have phoned up to ourselves where it's just been getting a couple of false alarms coming through, and that's because the background in the background of the actual camera image for that, but it's something to watch out for there. So these are the recommended installations for the temperature screening cameras without the calibrators. So those are the different detection distances for each of the different models that we sell, as well as the mounting heights and also the elevation angles for them. I will be sending the slides out after this webinar, so you will have a copy of all this as well, which will make it easier on your installs. This is the configuration with the black body calibrator itself. So there does have to be a recommended distance between the black body calibrator and the temperature screening camera. So you can see there's a few different distances there for it, as well as the mounting height of the black body calibrator. This needs to be pointing towards the camera and in the camera's field of view, but it can't be in the same detection area that you have configured. It has to be outside of the area that you've configured for the temperature screening. So with the configuration, this is the web front end of the camera itself. So the first thing we need to ensure is that in the body thermography settings are actually enabled. So in the configuration, maintenance, and then VCA resource type, you need to set the camera to body thermography. On the local settings for the actual camera itself, you do need to enable the rules so you can actually see the box around the person and the temperature on the screen in live view. So those settings would need to be enabled on the camera that we've got shown there. In the basic settings for the body thermometry section within the camera, the settings that are highlighted on screen need to be enabled, and also the emissivity setting and the distance. So emissivity for human skin is set to 0.98, which is the setting for temperature screening when you're looking at a human's skin. The distance setting is the actual distance between the camera itself and the object or person that you are going to be measuring on site. So those need to be set and then saved. On the basic settings in the body thermometry configuration page, you need to enable the face detection and display temperature. So this would actually display the temperature of that person on screen with the green square around the person's face and also the temperature in degrees. There's also the options for your alarm temperatures. So these are set to 37.5 degrees by default. Usually the person's set to have a high temperature if their temperature goes above 38 degrees. We have them set to 37.5 because the accuracy of plus or minus 0.5 degrees. just so you've got that kind of screening there. And then if someone does trigger it, this kind of first line screening, that can be then checked with a thermometer probe or anything like that. You also need to ensure that the upload captured face image and display temperature are enabled as well, if you want to use those features on the camera. And there's also a draw area section. So you draw the actual area that you want your detection zone to be, which I'll show on our live demo that we've got set up, and setting the minimum and maximum pupil distance. This can help with any false alarms as well, with people walking past the camera in the background. That can help alleviate that. And without those settings, you can get false alarms coming through. It's something that we've seen a couple of times there as well. So this is the configuration if you're not using the black body calibrator. So I'll show another slide with the actual black body calibrator itself, but these are your basic settings on this tab if you are not using the actual camera itself. So body temperature compensation needs to be enabled, and the compensation type is set to auto, with the manual calibration will be set to 0 by default. It's recommended that if you need higher accuracy on the temperature readings, that you do use the black body calibrator, bring in the actual higher accuracy on temperature readings to ±0.3 degrees when that has been used, which you can see on this slide. So you can see there we've actually got the black body calibrator unit outside of the detection area that we've set up, and there's a dot in there that's used to actually calibrate the camera. You need to set the distance of the black body calibrator, how far away it is from the camera itself, and the temperature that the black body calibrator is outputting is 40 degrees, which is set on the unit itself. And the emissivity setting for the black body calibrator needs to be 0.97 when using that unit. And it does need to be within the camera view, but outside the detection zone. A couple of times we've seen installs where the actual black body calibrator is within the detection zone itself, so some people have it in the top right hand corner of the detection zone, but it actually needs to be outside of this zone in order for it to work properly there. So this is just a quick video showing how it actually displays from the camera itself on the thermal image. So you can see there the temperatures are overlaid on the people as they're walking past, which makes it a quick and easy kind of screening method, especially for companies that have large amounts of people coming in to the foyers or anything like that, entrances of shops. They can have this as a kind of overall screening method. They're not aimed to, if someone has an abnormal temperature triggered, that's not saying that they have fever. It's more of a kind of first stage screening method, and then that would need to be checked, the thermometer or something like that, to confirm the high temperature. But it's used as kind of a mass screening for this kind of solution. So there's a few different softwares that are available. So this is just showing the actual compatibilities of the software with the temperature screening solutions. We're going to be taking a look at the iSeries MVR with the IVMS 4200 software. We do get asked quite a lot if it's possible to receive the events through to the Hit Connect app on mobiles, which is possible to set that up and to receive the notifications through a mobile, which is useful for security guards on site, whoever's monitoring the system. If an abnormal temperature is detected, they can have that notification come through the phone, or they can have a PC running the IVMS 4200 software, and you can also have it actually triggering locally on the camera itself with the flashing light alarm and the audible abnormal temperature alert on there as well. It does need to be a specific version of the IVMS 4200 client software for temperature screening. There has been a new version released, which we're currently looking at the moment in-house. We're testing that. There's also the HIC Central option for large systems or systems where you need more advanced controls or alarm linkage through the actual system itself, or if you're monitoring multiple remote sites, the better option is to use HIC Central as the overall back-end VMS, which you can see on the webinar that I hosted a couple of weeks ago, which is live on our YouTube channel now as well. So just some troubleshooting tips, some things that we've seen when we spoke with customers with any issues on site. So we'll just reiterate the cameras are installed in a stable environment, so you haven't got any air conditioning units near them or any radiators within the area that can affect the actual screening. and the accuracy of the temperatures that have been detected. It's always best to ensure that the firmware on the cameras and the recorders has always been updated to the latest version. This adds any new features or fixes any new bugs on the actual cameras or recorders as they've been found. But you can always give us a call at Dynamic CCTV and speak to our technical guys that will be able to help you out there to check the firmwares. The cameras also need to be installed within the recommended mounting heights as well as the detection distances. So I've seen in the past before where larger lens bullet cameras being used, but the actual detection distance the customer required were really short. So this was affecting the actual accuracy readings of the temperatures. So it's just making sure that you use kind of right mounting heights as well as detection distances for the camera that you've got on site for the solution. You also need to ensure that the 90 minutes preheat time has been followed. So if a camera's been turned off on a night when everyone's left the building and then it's turned on the morning, you would need to allow the 90-minute preheat time before you can then start getting accurate temperature readings. You also need to check that the environmental temperature of the camera matches the overall ambient room temperature. You can check with a thermometer in the room and just make sure that the camera is reading that as the environmental temperature for that to ensure the accuracy. It's also best to test if multiple individuals produce similar inaccurate results. So if you're starting to get false alarms come through, if you test multiple individuals past the camera to see if they're producing the same inaccurate results, and then you can check those with a thermometer to see if it's something with the camera itself that's actually causing the false alarms to come through there, or whether or not it's configuration setting. So what we'll do now is we'll go on to the live demo. So I'll bring up the web front end of the camera itself. Just bring these over. Just load up the web front end. So you can see there I've got the optical image and the thermal image of the camera itself there playing in the live view. So for the configuration side of things, we need to go into configuration at the top there. And then on the maintenance page, we need to go into VCA resource type and ensure that that's set to temperature screening, which you can see ours has already been set to there. We then go into the temperature screening section. So these are our basic settings of the temperature screening camera. You can see I've got the enable temperature measurement enabled, display temperature info on the actual video stream of the camera. So it'll actually display the temperature. And we've also got the emissivity setting set to 0.98, which is for human skin. And I've got the detection distance set at 2 meters, which is the distance I'll be standing away from the camera when we trigger this through. You can see there I've got the area drawn in yellow. So this is my detection area zone I've configured, and I've also set up the maximum and minimum pupil distance. So this helps with accuracy and prevents false alarms if people are walking past the camera but aren't wanting to be screened if they're walking around in the background. This can help with any of those false alarms coming through. And we've also got our alarm temperature set there. So you can see we've got this camera set to 37.5 degrees. So if a person's detected by the camera with a temperature above 37.5, it'll then trigger an alert on the actual system itself. If the camera is going to be added to an MVR or directly to a back-end VMS, you need to ensure that the linkage method is set within the camera itself. So you can see there we've got notify surveillance center ticked. That will allow an MVR or back-end VMS to receive the alerts from the camera. And you can also see we've got the audible warning enabled as well as the flashing alarm, which is saved on that. One setting that does get gotten about a few times and we've seen in the past with other installs as well is when enabling the flashing alarm, you also need to enable the schedule for the flashing alarm. So if we go into event and go to flashing alarm light output, we need to set this to continuous. Set that to 00 and 2400 hours. Save that and copy to all days. If the arming schedule for the white light isn't enabled, even though it's ticked as a linkage action, it won't actually trigger if abnormal temperature is detected. It does need that arming schedule enabled, which is something that we've seen a couple of times there. Just wanted to make sure that I mentioned it to you all there. What we've also got is the face capture settings. So this is where you can change the picture quality of the captured images. You can also set whether or not where you want the target picture to be. So you can set it to a headshot of the actual person, or you can set it to a custom size, and you can set the actual size of the capture that you want it to be on site, depending on the requirements. You can also set the quality of the picture as well as the resolution, so you can drop that down to 720p if you wanted to, if there was a need for that on site. And we've also got the display target info on alarm picture tick there as well. If you wanted to shield off specific areas, you can do that through this page here. We're not going to do that for this one. Going to advanced configuration, you can see we've got our upload feature enabled there, and we've also got best shot enabled as well. So this will mean that the camera will take multiple captures and the best capture will be uploaded through the system there. We could also enable on the camera itself a no mask linkage action. So if no mask is detected by the camera, if someone's not wearing a mask, it will play audio message saying please wear a face mask, which I know from next week in some areas you do need to start wearing face coverings. It's mandatory on there, which is useful just as a reminder people to wear a face mask. So that's the configuration settings done on the camera. Because we're going to be running it through an 𝐂𝐸 MVR, we then need to do a couple of settings on the MVR itself. So if I move over to the NVR, you can see there I've got the cameras added into the MVR itself. And if I go into configuration, you can see we're running the MVR on the 4.40 firmware for this scenario here. If we go into our event and into smart event, we need to enable the Notify Surveillance Center for the temperature measurement alarm. So this will pass through the event to IVMS 4200. If you also want to receive events through for normal temperatures being detected through IVMS, you also need to enable the option for your face detection. So if you've got target capture, VC8, and then face capture, and then go to linkage action, you can see I've got Notify Surveillance Center enabled there. So once a person walks in front of that, capture is taken and it's sent to the IVMS 4200 software. You can also enable voice prompt on the MVR itself, which will play through the HDMI if it's connected to a monitor. So you can set a voice prompt for normal temperature and on abnormal temperature to play through the speakers on the HDMI. And there's more configuration options in there as well if you need it. And you can also set in the rule for the actual face cap on the recorder. Ours is already set up on the camera itself for that. So if I minimize that and bring up my IVMS 4200 client software, and if we go into maintenance and management, you can see there I've got the 𝐂𝐸s added into the software itself, and I can play those two camera images. You can see that I've got the thermal and the optical image from the 𝐂𝐸s MVR added into IVMS 4200. What you do have is the AI dashboard. So this is not something that's installed as standard on the system itself. You do have to select this option during the IVMS 4200 install in order to have this screen or function enabled on the system. So you can see there I've got some green detections which are showing as normal temperatures that have been detected by the camera from some preliminary tests that I was running earlier to make sure the system was up and running. So if I walk in front of the camera now, you'll then get another action through there, which is then displayed. That's just triggered on my system there. And then what we can do is if I use a warm hot water that I've got here, and hold it to my forehead. This will then trigger through. So I've got the cup of water here. If I walk in front of the camera, put it actually on the just switch my screens over there. You should have heard the actual alarm message play, and if I load up, bring the AI dashboard back up, you can see there it's detected my temperature is 50.8 degrees, and that's just because of the boiling water that we had in the cup there. It's now cooled down quite a bit. So that's a pretty useful feature to have the actual notifications come through to a PC, which can be for your operators or anything on site. There's also more advanced linkage actions using the 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕 platform for large systems or where you're needing it to alert through to multiple people on there as well. You can also change the actual filters. So on the right hand side, you can configure it so it will only display temperature measurement instead of the normal face captures as well, if you had other cameras on the site. And along the top, you'll have real-time counts displaying with the no mask if you had that option enabled. You can see I've had 8 normal detections come through, and I've had 8 abnormal temperatures that have been detected on the system. So it's a nice, easy way to see exactly what's been coming through on there for that. That's just a quick look at the actual temperature screening solution as a live demo for the setup itself. But if you have any questions, you can always contact our technical team and we'll be happy to help you through that. I wanted to cover a couple more bits just before we go on to the Q&A session. So we have now put together temperature screening brochure and density control brochure, which are pretty useful, and it does actually give you the different solutions broken down, so it shows what kind of products you need to match each solution, depending on the requirements for the actual site itself. We also have full technical support available for anything that we sell here at Dynamic CCTV. We do have 10 members of in our technical support team that are willing to take your calls. We don't have a queuing or ticketing system. When you ring through, it will be answered by one of our technical support team, which will be able to help you out over the phone there. And we do also post regularly on our different social media pages and our YouTube channels for useful how-to guides, and also recorded versions of any of the webinars we host. And we do have a technical bulletin that we send out now on email. If we found any issues or anything useful that we might find out or test, we do send that out regularly to our customers. But if you have any questions, and I can answer those now for the actual system itself. The Dildars asked if we are going to send out the record session, and so we'll be posting the record session of the webinar up on our YouTube channel, which should be up by the beginning of next week, which will be notified on our social media pages there. I have been asked by Nilesh if someone wears a face cover in the forehead, will the camera pick up high temperature? And so if the person does have something covering the forehead, this will affect the actual detection and could prevent the camera from reading the temperature of the actual person itself. So that's where the kind of limitations and where you'd have to have a second process for screening anyone that does have the foreheads or anything covered there for that. Ben has asked what the deviations are between multiple readings. So as you can see on the detections came through on mine, there was a slight deviation between temperatures that were recorded, and that's because the way I'm walking in front of the camera itself, it's not the best kind of environment that I've got mine set up in here. For the way I'm walking, I'm coming in from the side into the actual detection zone from that there. Stuart's asked if you can record the 7608 NI and the 7716 NI. So if it's the 7608 NI-I2 and the 7716 NI-I2 options or I4 units, it is possible to record both the thermal and optical image. On a special firmware for the actual I-Series MVRs, you can get the temperature screening captures showing up down the left-hand side in live view. And on there it will display whether or not it's normal or abnormal temperature that's been detected, as well as the temperature in degrees that's been detected on the cameras themselves. All that. I think that's pretty much all the questions answered there. So thank you for joining me today and taking the time to join our webinar for this solution. I'll just answer one more Q&A that's just come through from Stuart. So at the moment, there aren't any temperature screening cameras that are available for external use. They are for internal only use, just because the environmental factors, cameras are used externally. Thank you for joining me today and taking the time to attend the webinar. Please look out for any more that will be coming up in future. On our Dynamic CCTV website, there's a webinar section that will list any upcoming webinars that we are hosting. My contact details are on screen there. So if you have any further questions or any technical queries, please feel free to contact me and I can help you out there. Thank you.